Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with the amazing Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP. I'm just incredibly proud that he's come out to our community. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Weewakai, the Weewakam, and the Hamalko First Nation. I am very grateful that they allow me to be here and do this work on their sacred territory. I also want to thank Habitat for Humanity for having us here today. You know, one of the most amazing things about that organization is the amount of volunteers who come here and do the hard work. And I want to recognize that hard work and dedication because they're building community every single day. So again, I'm so proud to have Jagmeet here with us today because when I knock on doors across this riding, I hear again and again about the challenges that people are facing. And they are facing a lot of challenges around affordable, accessible housing. And they don't know how it's going to ever get better. And I'm so proud to work with Jagmeet so closely because he is a human being who understands what it is to suffer, to have a hard time, and he works hard every day because he is in it for everyday Canadians. So I'm pleased to be here and I'm pleased to welcome Jagmeet Singh. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, thank you.
I am so honored to be here with Rachel. You are amazing. You're a great voice for the riding. Being here in Campbell River is very special to me, particularly because Rachel touched on something, that housing is a massive crisis. And it's a massive crisis across Canada. And we're specifically making this announcement today in Campbell River because it's not an issue of just large urban centers, rural communities, smaller communities, communities across up and down the island, but also across Canada are struggling with being able to afford housing. And we've got a housing crisis across Canada. And then we look at the response of Mr. Trudeau. On a une crise de logement abordable, mais il faut souligner c'était quoi la réponse de Mr. Trudeau. Given this housing crisis, you would think that Mr. Trudeau would take it seriously. Well, instead of taking it seriously, he says on one hand the economy is doing really well, but he's invested 19% less than Mr. Harper as percentage of GDP in housing. 19% less than Mr. Harper. How is that a response to the seriousness of the crisis? His plan, the majority of it won't roll out for years in the future. He doesn't understand the seriousness of the problem, nor does he care to respond to it. But what does he care about? Well, when corporations knock on his door, when wealthy pharmaceutical companies knock on his door, he meets with them behind those doors and does whatever they ask. He makes sure that the wealthiest, the people at the very top, get whatever they need, and families end up paying the price. You know, that's the thing with governments in Ottawa. Whether they're liberal or conservative, they continue to make life easier for the people at the very top, those who are wealthy and powerful. Their lives become easier and easier, and families pay the price. We want to stop that. We want to put an end to that. And so our plan is to build 500,000 new affordable houses. Like the work that's being done with Habitat for Humanity and other community organizations, we want to partner with them to make up for 30 years, 3 decades of inaction. So we need to make up for that. But here's the thing. There's people that need housing right now. There's people that need help right now. So to help those families out right now, we're going to put in place a rental subsidy. This is going to help families that are struggling with housing today. Families that are in a situation where they might lose their housing because they can't afford to pay the rent. We're going to provide them with supports. So our plan is going to help out nearly 500,000 families with up to $5,000 of support each year. According to the PBO, this will make the difference for families that are unable to pay their bills. For families that are making a tough choice between do they pay for their groceries or do they pay rent? Do they buy the medication they need or do they pay for their rent? These are difficult choices that families are making, far too difficult for far too many families, and we'll put an end to that. Our plan will literally lift up 500,000 families and will give them up to $5,000 of support. Donc ce qu'on propose aujourd'hui, on veut construire, on veut bâtir 500 000 logements abordables et sociaux, mais on sait que ça va prendre du temps de faire ça. Donc, pour aider des familles de maintenant, ce qu'on propose, c'est de mettre en œuvre des allocations de loyer, des allocations pour les locataires. Donc, ça va aider des familles pour payer le loyer. Ça va aider des familles de maintenant. Donc, ça va aider jusqu'à 500 000 familles avec jusqu'à $5 000. Donc, c'est un fort amélioration pour les gens. C'est un grand investissement, mais ça va aider des gens de maintenant pour qu'on puisse construire des bâtiments abordables et sociaux. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm ready to take any questions that you might have.
Hello, Mr. Singh. It's Annie Bergeron-Oliver from CTV National News. Today, Mr. Scheer announced that if he were to form government, he would launch an immediate inquiry into the SNC-Lavalin, and he would also create a law that essentially removes cabinet confidence from this issue so that Canadians would know exactly what the documents were and what was included in the cabinet confidence that was not lifted. I'm wondering what you think about this and if your government would do the same thing.
Well, with Mr. Scheer, one of the things that's really troubling is he hasn't actually said what he would do with the DPA itself. The root cause of this problem was a deferred prosecution agreement, and he hasn't talked about that. He hasn't talked about independence of ensuring that if a wealthy, powerful corporation is charged with a crime, are we going to maintain independence? So what we've said and what we've committed to is this. We would ensure, first off, that we would not allow DPAs to be used, that if a corporation is charged with a serious offense, that they would not be allowed to continue to lobby the government. So what we're proposing are real metrics, real measures that would actually prevent this thing from happening in the future. With respect to the inquiry, though, it's something that I've long called for. As soon as this news broke almost a year and a half ago, I made it clear that what we need to do is to have a public inquiry. So I support that, of course. Oui, oui, j'appuie l'enquête publique, ça c'est quelque chose d'important, mais jusqu'à ce moment, M. Scheer n'a pas répondu à la question qu'est-ce qu'il va faire avec le processus qui a été soulevé, qui donne de pouvoir aux grandes compagnies de en fait échapper leurs responsabilités s'ils sont chargés avec un geste criminel, une poursuite criminelle. Donc ce qu'on a dit, ce qu'on va faire, c'est d'arrêter n'importe quelle entreprise s'ils ils font face à une charge, à une poursuite criminelle. On va arrêter les lobbying. Et en plus, ce qu'on va faire, c'est de s'assurer que dans l'avenir, il y a une indépendance, que chaque fois qu'une entreprise fait face à une poursuite criminelle, qu'il y a des indépendances dans notre système de justice et on a les poursuites sans avoir des ingérences politiques.
As a follow-up on a slightly different subject, tomorrow is the climate strikes across Canada. I understand that you will be in Victoria. Why was it important for you to take part in this? And I believe so far Mr. Scheer has not said he's going to go to a climate strike march. What do you think about that as well?
Well, I'm not surprised that Mr. Scheer's not going. He doesn't seem to understand the severity of the problem. I'm moved by young people. And young people are demanding that world leaders listen. They're demanding that people do something. They're saying it's their future. Young people are saying, we are worried about the future. We are afraid. And if a young person says that he or she's afraid, that they're afraid of the future, I mean, that to me is a massive, just irresponsible lack of understanding of what kids are going through. So for me, I want to say to those young people, I understand that you're worried. I stand with you. And we want to demand action. That we're done with the pretty words of Mr. Trudeau, who says one thing, then buys a pipeline, says one thing, then approves expanding it the next day. The pretty words and empty promises are not sufficient. They're not good enough. They're wrong. They're actually a betrayal of young people and their future. So for me, this is about young people, that what we owe it to them to make sure that we can look them in the eyes and say we fought with everything we had to make sure this planet was livable, that the environment was protected, that the air and the land and the water were livable for everyone. Oui. Donc, je ne suis pas surpris que le chef, que le monsieur Scheer peut-être potentiellement ne va pas assister une grève pour le climat. Ce n'est pas surprenant, mais c'est inacceptable parce que les jeunes et la jeunesse, il dit que c'est notre avenir. Et on a peur de l'avenir. On a peur parce que les leaders mondiaux n'ont pas pris des actions concrètes. Donc, je pense de M. Trudeau qui donne des belles paroles, mais sans action, des promesses vides. Et c'est une trahison pour l'avenir de la jeunesse. Et je veux dire aux gens, je veux dire à tout le monde que je suis là pour vous. Je comprends que vous avez de peur et c'est notre travail de mettre tous nos efforts pour lutter contre la crise climatique, pour s'assurer qu'on a un environnement sain pour l'avenir.
Ashley Burke, CBC News.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Would you support a minority government that goes through with the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion?
Well, what I've said is I'm opposed to the project, absolutely and fully opposed to it. So whatever government the people of Canada choose, I will be doing my best to continue to fight this project. I've said I'm running to become Prime Minister. That's why I don't want to answer your question directly, because I don't want to accept the frame that I'm not a Prime Minister, because that's what I'm working to do. But to respond directly, I will work with whatever position I'm in to ensure that we continue to oppose this project.
So if you do win, then what would you do with the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion? Would you just eat the multi-billion-dollar loss?
We would not expand the Trans Mountain. We would not build another pipeline. We would not approve that. And with respect to the asset that we have, we'd have to assess what it is and exactly what it's worth and understand what we can do with it. Now, I don't have those details because I'm not privy to them. But we need to make a good decision around the future. But we know the future of our country and the world is a future where we're not burning carbon for fuel, where we are investing in renewable energy. And that's the future I want to build.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Mercedes Stephenson, Global News. I wanted to ask you, in regards to increasing natural disasters and climate change, what would your policy be in terms of people building in zones that are, for example, floodplains? Would the federal government look at stopping support for rebuilding in those areas where there's repeated natural disasters?
So this is a very tough decision for families to make. And what we want to do is make sure we put in place two things. One is we've announced about a week ago, we put forward an announcement to put in place funding significant dollars in place for municipalities to prevent any damage from extreme weather. We know that there's infrastructure that could prevent a lot of flooding, that could prevent a lot of the damage that occurs in communities. So instead of responding after the fact, we put forward a massive investment to provide municipalities with access to a fund to prevent those impacts on their community from happening before they happen. But to your question directly, if we can't prevent the damage from happening with infrastructure builds, we have to look at how we can support families to move into safer communities. So there's been some talk about funding for families so they can move. I think it's something we've got to look at.
In terms of the carbon tax, can you just walk us through exactly where the money would go if the NDP were the government?
Sure. First off, we believe that families, we would not increase any of the burden on families, but what we would do is increase significantly the portion that the biggest polluters are paying. Right now, the biggest polluters under Mr. Trudeau's plan are completely exempt. So to me, it makes no sense to put a price on pollution, but those who are polluting the most, Mr. Trudeau has completely exempted. They don't have to pay anything. That's wrong. And it's really not surprising because Mr. Trudeau continues to show that he puts the burden on families, but he actually lets his wealthy, powerful insider corporate friends get off the hook. We wouldn't do that. We would make sure that the biggest polluters pay their fair share. And then with some of the portion of the revenue, we need to invest back into renewable energy, clean energy. We also need to invest back into families to make their lives more affordable. And that's things like the retrofit program to reduce the cost of energy, to help them do their part to reduce emissions, but also lower their bills, lower their energy bills, and also create jobs. So that's some of what we would do with the funds that we would obtain from this price on pollution.
Jérôme Lebé, Radio-Canada. Monsieur Singh, vous êtes contre un accord de réparation avec SNC-Lavalin. Qu'est-ce que vous dites aux milliers de travailleurs québécois qui travaillent pour SNC-Lavalin et qui pourraient éventuellement perdre leur emploi?
Je dis aux employeurs et travailleuses que M. Trudeau a dit qu'il veut protéger les emplois, mais en fait, il veut protéger les emplois des PDG, les plus puissantes, pas les travailleurs et travailleuses. Ce qu'on a vu, ce qu'on a entendu dire, c'est que tous les emplois vont continuer. Il n'y a aucune vraie menace pour les emplois. Et en fait, le travail de construction au Canada, le travail de bâtir des ponts, des rues et tout ça, ça va continuer d'être au Canada. Ça va continuer d'avoir des emplois pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes, les Québécois et les Québécoises. Donc, il n'y a aucun fait qui prouve cette menace que M. Trudeau a livré seulement pour en fait défendre sa décision d'aider les plus puissantes.
Le Bloc québécois a proposé ce matin de déposer un nouveau projet de loi sur les services à visage découvert. Votre position sur le sujet, est-ce que vous croyez que les services gouvernementaux devraient être livrés et reçus à visage découvert au Canada?
Non, pas du tout. Je suis fermement contre ça. Je ne vais jamais permettre à quelque chose comme ça d'aller de l'avant. Et en fait, il faut souligner, le Bloc a eu 4 ans, ils n'ont pas proposé ce projet de loi dans la Chambre de communs. Il l'a fait par respect maintenant, pendant l'élection, pendant la campagne électorale, seulement pour le but de créer une chicane. Il veut diviser la population. Il veut créer une chicane. C'est seulement le but des Blocs et ça montre qu'il ne peut pas travailler avec le reste du Canada. Ça aussi montre qu'ils n'ont pas s'inquiéter par les enjeux soulevés par les Québécois et Québécoises. La crise climatique, les paradis fiscaux, les inégalités sociales, tous les problèmes que j'entends souvent, ça montre que les Blocs ne comprennent pas la réalité des Québécois et Québécoises et ils veulent seulement créer des chicanes.
Hi, it's me again.
Hi.
I'm actually going to ask a question from the crowd. The individual asked me, if you were to form government or form a minority government, what would be your top 2 priorities specifically as an NDP government or supporting another government?
So we've talked about 3, so I just have to add just one more than you've asked, so I think it's close enough. Housing is a massive priority for us. We know this is a national crisis, so housing is top mind. Healthcare, and in healthcare we want to expand to include pharmacare for all, and then the dental care program that we talked about, which would cover 4.3 million Canadians who don't have coverage. They would immediately get dental services. And then finally, climate crisis. We need to make sure we tackle the climate crisis. And throughout all these 3 areas, reconciliation is something that is not something that can be divided out. It's something that permeates everything we do.
The announcement today, what would this actually look like? How would people receive subsidies? I mean, a lot of people do pay more than 30% of their rent. Does that mean everyone would get this subsidy as well?
So what we would do is we would work with provinces to deliver the program. The program would help. We work with the PBO. This would be about 500,000 families that would benefit. They would receive up to $5,000 a year, depending on what their needs were. And we work with provinces to figure out those who need it the most. It certainly would not go to the wealthiest. It would certainly not go to those who are millionaires and wealthy. It would go to families who are in need.
Encore moins.
Oui.
Vous avez annoncé hier avoir investi tous vos candidats pour les 338 circonscriptions du pays. Finalement, vous avez atteint ce seuil-là avant le Parti libéral du Canada. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire pour le NPD? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire pour le PLC, selon vous?
Nous sommes tellement fiers de ce qu'on a atteint. Parce que beaucoup de monde a posé des questions. Souvent, ça prend beaucoup de temps. Ça prend beaucoup de temps pour avoir des candidats et candidates. Et pour moi, j'ai dit avec beaucoup de fierté qu'on veut faire des choses différemment. Et un élément que j'ai voulu faire, c'est de vraiment avoir plus de femmes dans les politiques. Si on n'a pas plus de femmes candidates, donc on ne peut jamais réussir à avoir la moitié des gens élus qui sont des femmes. Donc pour moi, c'est un engagement. Je suis fier que maintenant, on a la cible, on a atteint la cible la plus haut. On a 49% de nos candidates sont femmes. Je suis fier de ça. Mais en plus, nos candidats et candidates représentent le Canada. On a beaucoup de gens qui sont autochtones, beaucoup de gens qui sont de communautés minoritaires, aussi beaucoup de gens qui sont de communautés LGBTQ. Je suis tellement fier de ce qu'on a réussi. Je veux féliciter mon équipe pour réussir et montrer qu'on peut faire les choses différemment et on peut avoir des candidats et candidates qui représentent le Canada.
In English, please.
Sure. I got a lot of questions about, it's taking you a long time to get your candidates and it's taking a lot of time to get there. And I know it was different the way we did things, but I wanted to do things differently. It was one of my commitments to make sure we have a slate of candidates, a team of candidates that represent Canada. And I'm really proud to say that now we've got all our candidates in place. And that means we've achieved a couple of really, really record-breaking numbers that I'm really proud of. I'm proud of the fact we got 49% of our candidates are women. We're getting close to that 50% mark, and that's something that was important for me. If we want to change the way things have been done, we've got to do things differently. And I'm proud that we were able to get so many women as candidates, and it was important for me. I'm also really proud of the fact that we have candidates that reflect Canada. We've got a record number of Indigenous candidates and leaders and activists who are running for us, which is also really important to really represent what Canada is. We've got a record number of racialized candidates that represent, the face of Canada, and members of the LGBTQ community. These are, for me, a mark of pride because I wanted to do things differently. I wanted our team to represent Canada, and I'm proud that we've been able to achieve some pretty impressive results.
If a minority government was formed, would your party change its position at all when it comes to the pipeline?
No, I've made it really clear when it comes to Trans Mountain, this is a a pipeline that threatens the coastline. We're here on the island in Campbell River, and people here are afraid of what that would mean to thousands of jobs, what it would mean to the environment. We've got a beautiful, pristine coastline, and with the increased tanker traffic that could increase more than sevenfold, the risk of a diluted bitumen oil spill and the devastation that would have on the coastline, the fact that no one knows how to clean up diluted bitumen. It sinks, it doesn't float, and that means it's going to have a devastating impact. The fact that Indigenous communities have been disrespected and continue to challenge this decision in court. And also, it's important to point out, this is a pipeline that's simply going to send out raw resources. It's a raw resource export. And to me, that is not the way to build a good economy. We need to build value-added jobs. So for all these reasons, this is a project I've opposed and I will continue to oppose.
Just to be clear, if there's minority government, you will oppose it. There's no way you'd change that position. It's a hard no.
I've said it really clearly. I'm opposed to this project. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Merci. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Thank you.